Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. We gon' come and see about it. Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra read about it.
What's up, Worcester Mania here, coming to you from the What's Up Worcester headquarters here at the Village, 4 King Street in Worcester. And I'm here with my friend Jose Ramos. He is the resident commissioner at Worcester Housing Authority. You've been doing this job for 5 years already, man.
5 years.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's very nice to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just start and jump right into it. What is it that the resident commissioner does for the Worcester Housing Authority?
Well, the resident commissioner my title is the resident commissioner. What I do is I advocate for the residents.
Okay.
I am there to make sure that all the residents' needs are met. I'm there to make sure that they don't get violated. I make sure that I bring their voice to the table on what they want, as far as safety, anything that has to do with their home.
Okay. So basically you bring awareness to the board of what it is
That they need, their needs.
that residents need from the perspective of a resident.
Right,
Because
'cause I am a resident,
You are a
yes.
Worcester Housing Authority resident.
I am a resident of Worcester Housing.
Great. And how do you like that experience?
I've been living in housing for a long time. I know what it is to be a resident. I know what it is to live for housing. It's, as a commissioner, as a resident, I bring a lot because I live as a resident and I know what they go through and I know how hard it is to get to where you're comfortable and what it is to fight for what you want, even if it's low income, but I believe that everybody has a right to live safe and a decent life.
Right. So
and then it's in a safe environment.
Gotcha. So for those who don't know, the Worcester Housing Authority is just not, the agency that oversees all of the housing in Worcester. It's actually a Worcester housing, low-income housing-based project that helps people prevent things like homelessness or housing insecurity.
Right. Housing insecurity, right.
Nice. And from my understanding, Worcester Housing Authority has a couple big projects. So you got Great Brook Valley, Lakeside.
1050, 1060, Murray and Wellington.
And then the towers.
Those are the high rises.
Right. And then you got some
and
scattered
then you got
sites.
scattered sites, right.
Okay. So basically families throughout the entire city of Worcester, mainly on the east side.
Lakeside.
Yeah.
Great Brook Valley is family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And then Washington Heights, that's private now?
That's private.
Okay.
That's
And then Plumlee's also private.
Plumlee's also private.
Okay. But similar projects.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. They're just owned
different
by different
entity, right.
Right. So with Plumlee is the private-based community builders.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. So what is it that first got you even aware of such a position or interested in this kind of position, being a resident commissioner for the Worcester Housing Authority?
Before I knew about the commissioner's position, stuff like that, I was involved with what I call the resident council. A resident council is made of residents that volunteer to work. Each site has a resident council, which is based on a president, vice president, treasurer, so what they do is they have each site has a resident council. And then we meet once a month, the whole councils, to talk about issues that are going on. And we meet with the CEO, which is Alex Corrales, and resident services. And we talk about how we feel, what is it that, whether it's safety or whether it's food insecurity or whatever it may be, or how to make it better, how to make their way of living better.
So better quality of life for all the residents.
Right, exactly.
And when you say every site, what do you mean? Like
every site, like 1050 has their resident council, 1050 has the resident council, Murray and Wellington has they're both the same. So they have one resident council for both buildings, and each development has an office that a resident can go to if they have a complaint or whatever it may be, and then they bring it to my attention, and then I make sure it is resolved.
And how do you do that? What do you see as some of the resolutions you have made in the past 5 years that you've been with the Worcester Housing Authority?
A lot of the resolutions was beautification of the properties. Before we used to have like these big, huge, ugly signs that said Worcester Housing, and then they changed it. They're making it so that it doesn't look like a
institution,
or a hospital, you know. And I do want to say that I do give Alex Corrales, the CEO, a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Because when he came in, he went hands down on making sure that the properties were better, they look better. You know what I mean? That you're not walking into like, you know, like a hospital or something like that.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. From the outside, yeah, the properties look great.
Right.
But I've been in these properties, right? And I feel like a lot of what has been done, and this isn't a dig towards Alex Corrales or any individual, but just as a whole entity that Worcester Housing Authority is, it looks like a lot of the progress, if you will, has just been the outside. Have you ever heard the term makeup on a pig?
I have.
That's what it feels like to me. There's a lot. There's a lot of beautification and stuff that, you know, when we come through, or as someone who is looking to take advantage of the services that Worcester Housing Authority has to offer, or say HUD comes through for inspections or whatever it is, you know, they get that the facade of everything is nice and beautiful.
Right.
And I can't really speak to the high rises. I know a lot of work has been done there, and they do look nicer on the inside.
The inside was they got repainted and they did, you know, a different color, so it doesn't look like you're walking into a hospital. It actually has bright colors now, and we are working on all the developments, not only the high rises, but it just takes time. But we have plans to work on.
Lots of time and lots of money, because it is a lot of money.
Lots of money,
you know.
Lots of money.
So what I'm more familiar with is like Great Brook Valley,
right?
You know, Curtis Apartments. You know, there was a big overhaul, but what I saw was just a lot of exterior overhaul. They shut down for the most part the interior hallways, but the apartments are exactly the same.
Right.
There hasn't been anything besides a fresh coat of paint.
And
forever.
Right. And one thing I can say is last month I went to a showing of how they're going to redo the buildings inside. And it's going to be really nice.
So they're going to be redoing the interiors of all the buildings? Because I was under an impression that, you know, they were going to be tearing some buildings down and rebuilding new fresh.
But they are going to work on the other side.
So they're not taking down all the buildings. They're just going to...
As far as I know, they're going to start with the ones in back.
They're going to take those down and build new ones.
Yes.
And then once those new ones are built, are they then going to start with every other building, replacing little by little?
Yes.
Okay. See, that's what I was talking about, the makeup on a pig, because they look pretty, but it's still a pig.
Right. It's,
you know?
Yeah.
It's still, when you go to the inside, you know, it's great. It's appreciated, especially amongst people who are struggling to have a roof over the head. It's a beautiful thing to have heat in the winter. It's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing to be able to cool off in the summer, escape the sun.
Right.
I mean, it's not that it's not appreciated, because it absolutely is. And, you know, I don't mean to sound unappreciative, but so for someone who's grew up there, I'm 38 years old. So, you know, to see no change has been made except to the exterior of these buildings, which honestly to me seems like surveillance, like the whole Big Brother thing. Like they just want to watch and make sure. Like their biggest concern is crime. Right. When, you know, especially in the Black and Latino community, a lot of crime is actual survival, right? Right. You know, especially like selling drugs and things like that. I'm not saying it's right, and I don't advocate for selling drugs.
But it has come a long way from what it used to be. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's safer, more cameras. You know, I do walkthroughs sometimes with the Worcester Housing, and I do my rounds, so I make sure, you know.
You know, it's funny that you bring up cameras, because That's another thing. And you're going to hear a lot of complaining from me, and I'm sorry.
And that's fine. I mean, you know what I mean?
And I just want to see where the plans are, where you plan on going with some of these things that I bring up. Maybe they've already been addressed, and I just don't know.
Right. Well, with the camera situation, it's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about safety. It's not to intrude in anybody's life, but it does make it better to have cameras so they know what's going on. Yeah. If something happens, they can rewind and look.
Well, and I was just going to ask what the purpose of the cameras is, because there's been times where, my car was broken into.
Right.
And I go to housing, they're like, oh, that's not what they're there for. But then they're quick to tell. I'm hearing a friend of mine who they're like, oh, we see people in and out of your apartment all the time. So
I
what
get
is
that a lot.
that? You know what I mean? That's more for me surveillance, because really it's not your business who's in and out of my apartment.
It is not.
As long as I'm paying my rent and I'm not committing a crime that's hurting anybody, that's obvious.
Exactly. But one of the
rules,
you
can't look for things. Right.
One of the rules that we have in the lease is, when you get the apartment, it states in your lease that you're liable for your guest.
Right.
You're responsible for your guests. So say that you have a guest or you have company, and one of your company does something horrible, or, they're going to go to you because you're the lease owner. You're the owner of the apartment. You're the head of household. So it's based on your lease that you're responsible for your guests or whatever happens in your apartment.
What is your level of responsibility? Because I can't... I can't control everybody.
Right.
Somebody might be having a bad day. They come to my house, walk outside, and maybe hit somebody, punch them in the face because they didn't like the way they looked at them.
Right.
Okay, I'm not condoning violence.
Right, exactly.
But things happen.
So
now it's the burden and responsibility is on me as the renter. So am I now at risk of losing my housing security?
But, you might get a warning and say, listen, you're the owner of the apartment. This happened. Make sure it doesn't happen again. A lot of times I didn't agree with that, but now I do, because I see that as the owner of the apartment, I am the head of household. So I got to make sure that I have people respect my space and where I live, because to lose housing nowadays, it's hard.
No, it's detrimental. You know what market rent is right now?
Right. It's very
it's
difficult.
Ridiculous.
So I say sometimes people don't appreciate what they have. And I'm speaking at a resident level, because I live for housing. Yeah. I am a resident, and I tell my residents also, make sure, you always know who you let into your home. Be careful, because a lot of times nowadays people just don't care, and it's not worth losing your place for just something that you had no fault.
Right. And
rules are rules.
No, and it absolutely makes sense. And we do have to go to break. Jerry, I'm on it. I caught that. We're gonna go to break. We're gonna go to break in just a minute. But before I go to break, I feel bad even saying this. I don't want to take the last word, but I'm going to have to. And then we'll talk about it more when we come back from break. Sure. And that is, I feel like some of the rules need to be considered under the fact that a lot of people are signing those under duress. Right? Meaning they're desperate and they'll do anything to get a home and not necessarily really mean or adhere, you know what I'm saying? And they would sign to almost any rule just to get a place and deal with the consequence later. Right. You know what I'm saying? We'll talk about more of that on the other side of the break. Thank you so much, George. I don't know why I said George. I have George stuck in my head. I know it's Jose. I got it written right here. It says
I
Jose.
can be a George. I mean,
maybe that's what it is. You look like a George to me.
Yeah, there it is.
Now, you know what I think it is? It's Jose Ramos.
Yes.
And I have a very dear close friend. His name's Jose Ramos. Okay. So I call him George.
Okay.
So I think that's where we're going. Shout out to my man Jose Ramos. We love you, brother. You know who you are. But yes, if I call you George, it's cool.
That's
but
okay.
your name's
That's
Jose.
fine.
For everybody else, respect the man's name. Listen, if you want to be a part of this great conversation, please don't hesitate to put a comment in the comments below. this video here, and Jerry is right here to my left, and he'll make sure that I get those questions, and then you don't mind asking a few questions from the community, right? Yeah. So please, any questions you have for Jose Ramos, resident commissioner of the Worcester Housing Authority, please leave them in the comments below, and we will be right back after just a few words. Hey, yo, what's up, Worcester? And welcome back to the Sit Down. I'm here with my man, Jose, not Jorge. Jose Ramos. Welcome to the show again. I'm so happy that you came here and that we're able to have this open conversation in a safe place. And, you know, nobody's judging anybody here. Right. You know, you have a job to do. Right. And but you're also a tenant, so you get to see both sides
of the fence.
I
sure do.
Yeah, and so right when we were on break, you were telling me a little bit about responsibility, and you know the fact that just before the break we were talking. You know, sometimes people may sign the lease under duress, and they'll sign almost anything, right, just to get a roof over their kid's head. It's more of a survival instinct than it is actual reading through and understanding and saying, okay, this is the deal we're making. You know, like I'm giving you $500, you're giving me a service, right? But that's not really what it is. Right. This is detriment, right? This is people who have no other choice, no other way out. And because people aren't saying, you know what? I think I'm over this house. I think I'm over this mortgage. I'm going to go live at Great Brook Valley. Right?
I get it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
What you're saying, yes.
People are forced into those positions. They usually come from shelters or they come from whatever other institutionalized homelessness, whatever, maybe jail. Sometimes
we got people that come from other places, like immigrants.
Other countries, yeah. And that's usually their first stop when they get here because you can't afford anything else, really.
Right.
Which is a beautiful service that I have to say that and I'm only going to speak for Worcester because I don't know anything about outside of Worcester, really.
I don't either. I just,
you know, that Worcester does have. And, you know, we are an immigration safe harbor, right? Safe haven? Harbor?
Yes. Safe haven.
I was right?
Yes.
Okay. Like, first I said harbor. I'm like, no, that's where the boats go.
and, you know, there's a lot of things that are coming up new, which a lot of people might not know. Like, we started building on 38 Lewis Street. Okay. A house for homeless.
Okay. Is that the micro units?
Right.
Okay.
So we're rebuilding. We're doing a lot for the homeless. Do
you know how that? I don't mean to interrupt, but do you know how that works? Like, is that something where you identify the homeless, or the homeless have to apply?
I think housing has a list where they have people from shelters and stuff like that, and they apply.
Okay.
So they pick them from there.
Okay. So chances are they'd have to have.
They have to live in a shelter, or they have to be homeless.
Okay. But they'd have to have someone that's helping them in the process.
Advocate for them, right?
Okay.
Right.
So it's definitely a process with an application involved and things like that. Okay.
Yes. But
you can have a case manager.
Yes.
As a homeless person, that would be able to help you with whatever resources.
Right. Like
be it
if
food
you're
or
in a
housing.
shelter and then you have like an advocate for you, and they, apply for you, help you apply, and maybe you're one of the ones that go into one of the units that are, being built. It's like a house with different rooms. You share the bathroom. You know what I mean? But it's something. It's something. Housing is moving towards helping the homeless go into a shelter, like have a home.
Right. So rather than just a traditional shelter setup, it's more of
like a home.
You have some ownership. You feel like it's yours,
right?
Even if it's just a room,
right?
Or is it more like a studio apartment, but you just share?
It's like
common...
a house, but you have your own room and you share the apartment.
So can I safely call it a rooming house, or is it a micro
kinda
unit?
Like
because when I heard micro unit, I was thinking like tiny homes. You ever see that show?
No.
That's what I was
Not
thinking.
a tiny home. Just a house with apartments, and you get your own room, but you share the kitchen and the bathroom.
Okay. And is this free for homeless, or how does that work?
I believe so.
And are there any stipulations? Like you have to be actively looking for employment, or?
Well, they help you. We have what we call resident services.
Okay.
Which is they help you with, finding whatever help you need, a job, food, whatever it is that you need as a resident. Resident services is there to help.
Okay. And what about like mental health services? There's a lot of...
We have all that. We have...
Wonderful.
We do. We have resident services that you call, and then whatever issues that you may have with, whether it's food insecurity, mental health issues, or you're going through whatever it is that you're going through, you call, and we try to get the proper help that you need.
I see.
So it's not like, okay, whatever. No, if you have an issue, we try to take care of it.
Right. Well, I asked that question because it is my personal belief. Mm-hmm. I'm not a doctor. Mm-hmm. That homelessness is a direct cause of mental illness. I feel like at one point or another, there's something inside of an individual. Because again, nobody wakes up and says, you know what?
I wouldn't be homeless today. No.
Right. I think I'd much rather go sleep outside.
Yeah, sometimes,
So there's some component of mental health that gets them there.
Right.
Right. And then maybe it starts with you just can't cope or deal at your job anymore. Right. So now you can't pay rent. So then you lose your home. Now you're homeless.
When COVID hit, there was a lot of people that lost their jobs, their income, and they lost their homes.
And then they lost their minds.
Right.
And rightfully so.
They had mental
Rightfully
issues
so, yeah.
because they didn't know how to deal with all what was going on.
Right. Especially when it all happened so fast.
Exactly. And then we have people that, were like husband, wife with kids, and they lost their jobs, they lost their home. We try to do the best we can at Worcester Housing. And so I can say that.
So the reason why I bring that up is because let's say someone has a mental health issue where they're not able to hold down a job, right? What is
they don't
the
get
plan?
Evicted. We try to get them as much help as they need. We don't just evict people. Well, as far as I know, housing doesn't evict people just to evict them. They try to give them the proper help that they need. But some people I see that they lose their apartment because they choose to. They have.
You think so?
Some people don't.
Explain that, please.
Well, because I've met residents where I've advocated for them, and they said, yeah, I get it, but then instead of making it better, you're making it worse. Like if I have my own apartment and I know I shouldn't do certain things, I should try to make it better so that I know if I lose housing, it's not housing's fault, it's my fault. Do you know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with you.
Like, okay, I have my own apartment. It's
Yeah.
a small 1-bedroom apartment.
Right.
I can have company,
Right.
but then I can't have like an after party, like 100 people, you know, drinking and being rowdy and stuff, because we have to be cautious of, we have other people that live right beside us, you know. I'm not saying you can't have a party. You can, but then you have to be mindful of that's your place.
Right. So what you're saying is, you know, you have the party, right? Then you get reported. Housing says, hey, you shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
This isn't working for you.
Right.
You know, it's driving,
Right. You
it's
can have
bothering
company,
the
but
neighbors.
don't overdo
Right.
it.
And then, but if you keep having party and party and
Then
party,
you're breaking the rules, and then,
Right.
you know, at one point, it's gonna get to a point where you're gonna get evicted. They bring you to court, of course.
right. Okay. So, I mean, I guess I can agree in that sense, in
Right.
that, you know, there are circumstances where people
Right.
just don't appreciate what they have, maybe
Right.
don't care. And, you know, they throw the rules out the window, don't pay
Right.
no mind to anything. And, you know, over time, I could see how that would become a
Right.
nuisance. And then
Yeah.
if a judge decides, you know, because you do have to go to
Right,
court, and
you
if a
have to go to
judge
court, the
decides
judge
that housing
decides.
has a fair
Exactly.
ground to stand on,
Exactly.
then the next steps are being made. I guess I could see how you would think, how you could say that someone would choose that path,
Right.
because we're talking about parties here.
Right. I mean, to have an apartment, it's a privilege. You know.
You think so?
It's a
I don't
pri-
agree with that.
It's a privilege.
I
in the
strongly don't
sense
agree with that.
It's some people don't have it, and for you
Right.
to have it, you know,
I think housing is absolutely a right.
it is a right.
And
it is a right.
I mean, I think that you should respect it as a privilege, but it
Right.
shouldn't be held over you as a privilege.
No, exactly.
And I've
that's
seen
my
with my firsthand.
right.
I've seen
Right.
it. For everybody who doesn't know, if you know anything about Worcester Housing Authority, over the past 30 years, my mom has been not only a volunteer for many years, she actually, I think she won I can't remember the exact time frame, but I know it was a $5 million grant
Wow.
for Great Brook Valley and for the Valley residents for
That was probably before
improvement.
my time.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know, I was like 10. I was I was a baby. This is like over 20 years ago. And she helped start the Economic Development Social Security Office in Great Brook Valley,
Mhm.
which no longer exists,
Right.
but it was doing a lot of great things. You know, it was getting people jobs and even helping people start
Opportunities.
businesses.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was a great program that unfortunately at least doesn't exist in the capacity it used to.
Right.
But we'll get back to that in just a second. I really want to get to some of these questions because I love when our community engages. So thank you so much for these questions. I'm going to start with the first one here. It's going to take a little bit of a sidestep to where we were talking.
Okay.
But what steps would a tenant need to make in order to report concerns if they've already reached out to management/maintenance and still no turnaround?
Then the next step would be they would talk to me, and then as the resident commissioner, I have to get involved with their issues and make sure that their voices are heard. So if they're not being heard by their manager or maintenance, then that's where I step in and I make sure that the problem is taken care of.
Yeah.
I go and I talk directly to Alex, to the CEO, and hey, listen, you know, the resident went to management, they called maintenance, nothing's being done. That's where I step in.
Right.
And then
Which
I
is
let-
great. You're a
Right.
great resource to have, but don't you think that shouldn't even
it
be a
shouldn't
thing?
right, but it does happen, unfortunately.
Why do you think it happens?
Sometimes it's and in my experience working with the residents, as you know, it's lack of like sometimes is they don't have enough staffing right now. And sometimes it's a lot of work, so it's not like it's you're gonna call and they're gonna get right to it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it might take a little bit of time, but it shouldn't take a long time.
Yeah.
Which is before it was the case. Now it's not, because I see firsthand that when you call, you get a number, so that when you call again and you give that number out, it's known that you already called because something was broken, you know?
Mhm.
So it says, okay, Jose Ramos called. So they have what they call a notice that you called, and they give you like a little PIN number, like a number,
Right.
and it says that you called that number for a specific issue.
Right. And I will say, at least 9 out of 10 of the people who have come to my home and responded for maintenance calls, mainly maintenance. Shout out to maintenance.
Yes, shout out to maintenance.
They're
They do a really
amazing.
hard job.
The
Very
men that
amazing.
come are so sweet. They're so attentive. They go above and beyond, in my opinion.
They do.
And I feel like there's a lot of times where they want to do more because of the
but they can't.
basic humanity of it all, and the structure of it all doesn't allow them to.
Right.
For example, you know, there's things like if a light bulb's blown out, they know they got light bulbs in the back of the truck, and they want to give you a light bulb, but they're not allowed to give you a light bulb.
Right. You have to call it in. Anything that has to do with maintenance, you have to call it in. You have to call the maintenance number and report it, and then they send the work order to the maintenance person in the building, and he goes and, you know,
Right.
and he'll put like a light bulb or whatever it is he has to do.
Right, but that is an emergency, right? It's not an emergency.
Well, it's not an emergency, but I mean,
But
you need
it
light.
usually doesn't get taken care of right away, is my point.
True.
When you got a housing guy right outside your house who could just give you a light bulb, right? He's there, and he's like, yo, I really would if I could. And they say this to me.
Sometimes they
They
might
say,
not
but you got
have
to call it
at
in,
the
bro.
time.
No, they have it. They have it, but they don't want to lose their jobs over a light bulb.
Well, yeah.
You know, they don't want to look like they're stealing, right? Because
Right.
where's the proof that you gave it to a resident?
Right.
So I could see their concern.
Right.
As the employee, you know. But yeah, I know that I appreciate this question. Shout out to Overcomer Jenkins. We appreciate the question, and I can absolutely relate to it because there's been things like, you know, you get a clogged toilet, or you get a clogged sink, or
right.
your stove stops working, or your
Right.
fridge, and that's a whole nother
or
story.
an electric socket or whatever breaks down.
Anything that can
Anything.
happen,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And yes, there's a such thing as patience, which I believe a lot of people do have.
Right.
But then there's also, you know, you're only open till 4:30.
Right.
Once you get
8:30
close to 4:30, you're
gone.
like, oh no, now I gotta wait till tomorrow.
No, but we do have a number that if you call, and you call after housing leaves, you know, maintenance do respond.
Okay.
Like say you get locked out, and housing's gone at 4:30. You make a phone call, and they'll come in and they'll open the door for you.
Okay. I will say,
You know.
this is my own personal experience, and people around me that I've heard when they call, you know, speakerphone, I can hear everything.
Right.
The people who answer the phone could be a lot nicer.
We have new people. We made a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of complaints.
Did you notice that
Yes.
before they weren't
Yes,
as nice?
before, right? Like, okay, what is it? You know what I mean? But now
Yeah.
it's like, hi, how can I help you?
Right.
They have
Well, they'd be like, I
all
said they're
different
coming.
languages. Right.
We can't do anything because the maintenance manager said no.
Right.
And
but
it's
now
like,
they're courteous and they're really nice.
Okay.
And they make sure that you leave your phone number and they'll call you back.
okay.
You know, like, okay, they're on their way or they might take an hour or so, but you do get a respond back.
Word.
Not like before.
All right. So I guess my job personally is over because we have a lot more questions that I'm going to get to.
Right.
All these questions, because it's not just about my experience. It's about
Other
the
people's
community's
experience.
experience
Right.
and, you know, what it is, what answers you may have for them and
Right.
how it is you may be able to help them. You may be a resource nobody even knew about because, to be honest, I didn't even know.
A lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a very low key person. You
Yeah.
know, I try to stick to
Not
what
no
I
more.
do best is helping the community. That's because I'm also a resident.
But you're
So I
not
do
low
need
key
help
no more.
myself
You know,
too.
we're friends now.
Are we
So
sure?
I'm going to be bothering you.
That's okay. That's fine. Anytime.
And I'm an advocate myself, you know. At the end of the day, if everybody, you know, if the community's happy, if the residents are happy, that's all going to go full circle. The authority's going to be happy.
Right.
It's a win-win for everybody. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And obviously you can't please everyone,
True.
but sometimes it's just the smallest, most basic stuff.
We can
that
just do
helps.
our best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do. I try to do my best. I don't want people to look at me as, oh, Worcester Housing. No, I'm a resident. I'm an
Yeah.
advocate.
You're a resident first.
Right, most definitely.
Okay.
And what I do is for my residents, for the residents, because I'm always going to be a resident.
And how can people get in touch with you?
Cell phone.
Cell phone? Go ahead. Hit me with
My
it.
number is 508
Yep.
203 0200.
All right. And with that said, we're going to take a quick break. And we are going to go hear a word from our amazing community members, community events, community projects.
Thank you to everybody for.
Oh, well, you're not
questions.
done. We're coming back.
Oh,
We got a whole another half hour
Okay.
together, and I'm excited to hang out with you for some more. I got some more questions on the other side of this break. This is Manny. This is a Sit Down. What's up, Worcester? We'll be right back. Hey, yo, what's up, Worcester? Manny here, coming to you live from the What's Up Worcester headquarters at the Village, 4 King Street in Worcester. Yo, shout out to the Village. Are you familiar with this area with King Street?
I am. I live right down the street at Murray Ave, and Wellington.
So you know what?
Right next to Compare Foods.
Word. Okay, so you're very familiar with the community.
Very, very familiar.
And we've come a long way down in Main South, huh?
Yes.
A lot of changes have been happening.
Yes.
How about King Street, right? Isn't it nice and calm and mellow? And
yes.
It's just a very tranquil
actually
environment.
walked up here and it nice.
Different now, right?
Yes, very.
Yeah. You know, I think when you have positive influences in a community, it spreads, right?
Right.
And then the positivity. And it's not perfect by any stretch.
No, it's not 100%, but it's better.
But I think even the people who may have been deemed problematic are really respecting, you know, everything that's going on, and they're trying to take part in it. I talk to a lot of the people around here. I show everybody love. I don't judge nobody.
Right. We shouldn't.
And even some of the people who are deemed undesirable, whatever, they're the most loving, generous people. You know, they're just suffering their own problems.
We don't know what they're going through,
Right.
so we can't judge. I don't judge, so I don't be judged.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. We all
Absolutely.
have our flaws.
Oh my God! If you open my closet, so many skeletons, they probably pop out and poke you in the eye.
Listen, I got mine too. I'm not perfect.
No, and I think that's what makes us being humans so special.
Right.
Is we all are individuals with our own set of problems, some better, some worse than others, but
we all have same issues.
Right. And but at the end of the day, we all bleed bread.
Right.
Bleed bread. Bleed red. I'm hungry.
That time, huh?
Yeah, it's this dinner time. But we all bleed red, and we're all, I don't like to use the word entitled. I think it's a strong word, but we're all deserving of the most fair quality life possible. And we're all brothers and sisters.
Right, exactly.
We're here for 100 years if we're lucky.
Exactly.
That's it. So while me and you are living the same lifetime, just think about how lucky we are. Out of billions of years that this planet existed, that me and you were here together.
Right.
You could have been 100 years ago.
Exactly.
So in my eyes, you're my brother. So
we are brothers.
It's good to be here with you, brother.
Likewise. Likewise.
So before we went to break, you were talking about something, and I got some more questions. Don't worry, I'm going to get to the other questions. But we were talking about some of the maybe like the responses, and it's not anything that the Worcester Housing Authority, or at the very least, you as a resident commissioner are not aware of, and you have been making changes towards that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. So the changes that I talked to about, I've seen firsthand, like not he said, she said. I do walkthroughs with the CEO, with Alex Corrales. We go to every site. Sometimes, I ride around and I see changes. I've seen them because before anything is done, we get to vote on it as a board, and I vote on it. So I make sure that whatever we vote on, it benefits the residents. I'm not voting for anything that does not benefit the resident. It has to be a beneficial for the resident.
Okay, and that's recorded?
It is.
Okay. So, and the reason why I ask is because I just wonder, on a board, it's usually more than 2 people,
right?
3 people, right?
Right.
So you're one person,
right?
So
but there's more.
How what more resident?
No, I'm the only resident representative.
So if everybody else votes a certain way to benefit the Worcester Housing Authority, but you're voting a certain way to represent the residents, how is that a fair system of checks and balances?
Well, if we go on a vote, and if I disagree, I can table it.
Okay.
I can table it.
Tabling power.
Right. I can table it. When you table something, you put in it for more discussion.
Okay.
I'm not satisfied with this answer. I'm not going to vote on yay. I'm going to say table it for next meeting because I want more answer. I'm not satisfied with that answer.
And why do you think they care about your input? Like, why wouldn't they be like, you know what? We've already outvoted you 4-1. So, Jose, just sit there and be happy that you're part of you're at the table.
That's not how it works.
Okay.
That's not how it works. As the resident commissioner, I have a big platform. And my platform, first, I thank God for it. And second, I do it because I love people. I love helping people. And I come from the bottom also. So I've struggled. And I know what it is to come from the bottom and have nothing and have your own apartment, even if it's low income. It's, so I started from zero also, and I know what it is to struggle, not have food, not have, to pay bills. So I know what it is.
Right. You've lived it firsthand.
Right. So
So did you go in it? Did you go into it as a job opportunity, or did you go into it as an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm tired of the system and I want to impact change?
I went in it with the mentality that I want to make life better for the residents.
Okay.
I went in it with the mentality that I'm going to have a platform where I can help people like me, like yourself, like, anybody that's coming up.
Right.
They have a voice, and I'm their voice.
Okay. Well, I know personally, and maybe it's something you might be able to talk to my mom about. I know for a fact there's not a tenant organization for the Hooper Street apartments.
No.
We tried to get one together. My mom tried leading it,
right.
And nobody was really interested, or, they didn't want to get involved out of fear. They just didn't want to make any noise. They wanted to just mind their business, live their life, and that's it.
But then I look at it this way. If you're in a tenant organization, that's an opportunity to make it better for the resident. You have a voice.
Right.
That gives you a voice.
But you can't have a tenant organization of one.
No.
You can't have a tenant organization of one apartment.
You have to have a board.
Right. So how does one do that and still be able to reap the benefits that are there written, right? They're written in the rules, because we were talking about rules, that tenants are able to advocate for themselves. They are able to come together and speak when there's problems and try to get things fixed. For example, the reason why we even want to do the tenant organization, and I was part of it, is we have kids. We're family development, right? We're a family site. And are you serious? I feel like we just came back from break, bro.
Time flies.
All right, it's not Jerry's fault. I'm sorry. I look like I'm mad aggressive. I love him. He knows this is all just me playing.
You know what it is? Time flies when you're having fun.
We are having a great time.
And
we're going to have you come back and talk some more.
Whatever you want, I'm available.
Yeah?
That's the third one. It's just the third break.
Okay. We still got more time. Okay, great. All right, so let me just try to speed up the question then. And that is that there's nothing for them kids to do over there. There's a hospital, right? UMass.
Right.
I just doxed myself. Hard body. We can't edit this. Anyway, you don't know which one I live in. But there's no playground in the immediate area. The only areas for kids to play is up on Bell Pond, which would you want your kids walking up that hill by themselves?
No.
Probably not. No. There's Route 9. The traffic is horrendous. And even with that bridge, what if you have a kid that has disabilities that can't get up the stairs to get over the bridge, right?
Yep.
And then you have the other one up off of, what's the name of that park over there? Bosa did Summer Jam up there. No. It's up off of Catherine Street. Remember, you know that little playground that they just built? It's like a brand new playground. I can't. Do you know?
Is
what
that the one
I'm
on
talking
Lakeside?
about? No.
The back of Lakeside?
No.
I know we did some renovations on the back of Lakeside.
No, this is all on Bell Hill.
I used to live on that street.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the park.
Brain fog.
Yeah, serious. Anyway, the point is, you still don't want your children, especially in that type of neighborhood,
Right. In a dangerous situation.
being out by themselves.
Right.
There's a lot of things happening right now with drugs and human trafficking.
Yes, shootings.
And one of the things
like
was
that.
they took the basketball court out of the Hooper Street apartments because it was attracting gang activity. Now, maybe it was. I don't know.
Right.
I wasn't there. When I moved there, the court was already gone. What I do know is the residents... Channing Street. Yeah. It's not actually Channing Street. There's the parallel street to it is where the park is. Oh, my God. I wish I could remember. Is it in the comments? No?
I'm waiting for somebody.
Anyway, we got to go to break. But what I wanted to say is, we were going to raise the funds ourselves as residents to put in a basketball hoop for the kids. And they were like, oh, no, well, we can't because, the cars and also because it draws gang activity. But we had countered that with, but we're out here. We're going to watch it. We're going to make sure, not to mention the cameras. Oh, well, the cameras aren't for that. You know what the cameras are for, though? When my friend came and dropped me off and I took my McDonald's bag out of his car and threw it in the dumpster, they sent him a $75 bill. Nice, right?
Right.
Nice to do to poor people.
How long ago was that, though?
Like last year?
Last year.
Yeah, they're still doing it to this day. They're towing cars out of that parking lot like it's nobody's business. And speaking of quality of life, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think 7 buildings, each with like 5 or 6 units in it each. You know how many visitor parking we got?
5.
5.
Yeah. Because maybe of the space.
No. And and that's why I said I need to invite you to sleep over at my house so you could see.
Because
all night long, there's many spaces, empty spaces, right? And especially over by the fence behind the hospital. And the initial problem was a lot of people were coming from the hospital and parking in our parking lot. But why not give us guest pass?
Right.
So that way, if the visitor parking is full, at least you know that person that's parked in one of those, because there's only 5 spots.
Right.
And over in that area, there's like 15 open spots.
Right. Now, if you're
so it's not about space.
Right. But if you're a resident, you should have access to a parking.
Right. And I do.
Okay.
But when I have my guests come,
do they have
and let's say I'm having a party, a birthday party, right?
Right.
I shouldn't be allowed to have more than one guest.
Well, where I live, for example, I live in a high rise. There's
Right.
so much amount of space.
Right.
Sometimes I have to park outside because
We
there's
can't.
not enough space
We can't
in the
because
parking lot.
it's resident parking permit only on the street, on Hooper Street. So you can't.
Right.
So when there is space available, I'm not saying that you should let a car park there every day, forever, whenever they want. But if you see a car, they
Do you
don't
have
even look
sticker?
at,
Do they give you a sticker?
not for the
Like, a sticker?
visitors.
Okay.
Not
no,
for
no.
the visitors.
I mean, but
Yeah, for my car, yeah,
Okay.
but my car got a spot. I'm not worried about my car.
okay.
What I'm worried about is if I do a birthday party for my son
Mhm.
and say his aunts want to come, 2 aunts, let's just say 2 people, right?
Mhm.
That's 2 additional cars. That takes up 2 of the visitor spots, right?
Right.
And now you have 7 other buildings that can only park in 3 spots.
Mm-hmm.
If any one of those guests park in another spot, they're at risk to get towed, and now
Right.
they got to pay $200. Is that a way to treat poor people?
No, but it's
But it's the
rule.
rules.
It's a rule, right?
It's a rule.
It's a rule.
But is it a fair rule?
it
Does it even make sense?
sometimes it's not fair, but it.
Okay, so how do we address that? Because my mom actually, she told me to bring the map, and I didn't bring the map. She drew out a map where every apartment would have a car, a designated parking for
Right.
that apartment that was directly in front of their door, whatever. So it was very convenient for the people who lived there.
Right.
And it opened up like 10 spots
Mm-hmm.
for visitors. So that way, if 10 out of the 50 units want to have one visitor, they can.
Right.
You know what I mean? So as a resident,
It's
as a resident advocate, I would strongly suggest,
Right.
at least, and this is, I'm gonna say this is a little biased and personal on my end because of where I live, and I don't know what the other developments are like. I just know that there are little things like that that really make it hard
for other
for
residents.
no, not even for all the residents to not break the rules because
Right.
it's an
Right.
it's
not
an unfair
fair.
rule.
It's not right. I
it doesn't
get
make sense.
I get
So
it.
if all 5 of those spots are taken, now I can't have a visitor unless I feel like paying $200 and dealing with a tow truck company.
Yeah, that's something that's actually in all Worcester housing. I mean, sometimes, like where I live, we don't have enough space. Sometimes I have to park outside.
Right.
Sometimes if it's winter, I get towed because of the parking ban.
Mhm.
So it's
So
it's
why
difficult.
not have a more proactive approach where it comes to towing? They have the cameras.
They do
If they see it's a car that's been there for a few hours, leave the car alone.
right.
If they see that it's a car
That's
that's been
something I
there for
could
day
advocate
after
for.
day after day after day, that's a car that
That's
you need to
right,
remove.
Right.
And you want to know what's even crazier than that? Is that they actually, my mother's handicapped. She got a handicap placard. It took them the better part of 10 years.
Is there a handicap space for her to park?
Finally, after 10 years.
Okay.
Okay, so at one point, we were parking in front of my house to unload the house, including unloading her because she can't walk far.
Okay.
And they towed our car from in front of our house because we didn't get out there fast enough to put it, in the parking spot.
Well, you can always fight that.
And
you know what I mean?
no,
That
we
ticket.
did, but we shouldn't have to.
Right. I
And
get
you know
it.
why? Because every single day you have housing trucks parked in the same spot that we were unloading my mom in.
But because there was the housing.
So that right, but how does it? That spot they said that they told us there because it's a danger, right?
Right.
It's a fire lane.
Right. I get.
So
your
I don't
point.
care if you're Worcester Housing or
I
not.
get your
You're putting
point.
people in danger.
True. I get your point.
You know what I mean? So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We
Right.
need to go to break. Or do we just skip that break? We skipped it? All right. Let me get to these questions.
ahead, go
but
ahead.
And I appreciate your patience and I think
No
that
problem.
at least we're
Honest
understanding.
conversation, right,
And, yes.
right.
And if I can do anything to help, to advocate or to
Right.
be that person that shows up as a Worcester Housing Authority resident,
Right.
I would love to, be there and help inspire positive change.
Right. That's my goal,
And
to
be
inspire.
productive.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you. Let me get to the next question. From Overcomer Jenkins, this is a continuation from the first question, and that is, what is the procedure that W.H.A. has in place to tackle tenants' concerns without making a tenant feel ignored or labeled as problematic?
You shouldn't be ignored. You shouldn't be labeled problematic. I believe that in my role, as when I deal with this, is when a resident come and they have an issue, regardless of what the issue is, you should be heard and should be respected.
Right.
You know, if you feel you're not respected, if you feel you're being ignored, then that's an issue. That's a problem right there. That's not being courteous to you as a resident.
And what can a resident do if they feel that way?
They can-
Because obviously, defensively, you want to argue. And
Right.
you want to yell at them and you want to tell them, oh,
Right,
you're a
but there's a
jerk, you're this,
procedure
that,
that
but
you
that
go
doesn't
through.
do anything
Right.
for you, right? It only
Right.
gets you in more
Make you
trouble.
worse, right.
So what can I do when I'm feeling that way so that I don't feel like I'm a victim of my own circumstances?
Right,
really?
right. I mean, there's steps you can take. I mean, you know, for example, I have residents that has gone through that. They call me. That's why I'm there. And I tell them, if you have an issue, you can't get through, or you feel some type of way, let me know. Call me. That's why I'm your voice. You know, I will help them in any way I can. You know, you shouldn't feel some type of way because of whatever. No, if you know you're paying rent, you should be able to speak your mind. And if you have an issue, it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
It should be resolved.
Absolutely. I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
And my thing is, it's not always 100%, but it's you know, it does get better. You just have to speak up. You shouldn't be afraid. There's no reason to be afraid.
Right.
You know, because you pay your rent. You're paying rent. You're not living for free.
Right. Exactly.
So if you're paying your rent, you should be able to get services.
Right. And to be honest, you know what it feels like? It feels like paying rent at your mom's house.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just because you pay rent doesn't mean anything. You don't own the house.
Right.
There's still rules that you have to abide
Right.
by.
Right. But with my
And
experiences as
you can't paint the walls. That aggravates me.
Yeah.
It really aggravates me. Why can't we make our accommodations feel more like a home
Okay,
and not
I have-
just an accommodation?
I have the answer for you.
Okay.
I had a neighbor that she moved out because she was an elderly woman, but she took it upon herself to paint the whole apartment purple. The floor, the ceilings, the whole apartment was purple.
Right.
And when housing went in there, I went in there. I was like, okay, everything was purple.
Right.
You know,
Not my flavor, but
right.
it's
but,
not
but
that. Do you really think it's a big deal?
It's-
And the reason why I ask is because my mom, again, she used to work for EDSS,
Right.
and that was getting tenants jobs.
Right.
Some of those jobs were apartment vacate turnovers.
But what I'm
So
trying
guess
to
who
get,
knows about turnovers?
Right. But
I do.
what I'm trying to get at is when she moved out, it cost housing a lot of money to
How?
redo the floors and you know what I mean?
But I don't buy that. And the reason why I don't buy that is because I've done turnovers.
Mm.
And even when the walls are white, we paint them.
Right.
And even when the floors are whatever an original color are, we wash them.
Right.
Right? And if you can't wash purple paint off the floor, I get that.
Right.
Those tiles, they're cheap enough because they curl up on me
True.
to replace the tiles. And I know that it's not necessarily something that you really want to do, but maybe there's stipulations. Like if you give people a little bit, you know, like, all right, so you can't paint your floors, but you can paint whatever color you want on the walls because we're going to paint the walls anyway.
As long as you can paint it back the way it was. Like you,
Well, no,
you know,
not even with that stipulation, because this is what all my thing is. Housing, regardless of when I leave my house and all my walls are white, right? Even if I wash them and they're clean, housing is still going to go in there and paint those walls.
Right.
So why can't we paint our walls?
Right. Right.
I don't even without painting them back to white.
right.
You know what I mean?
And one of the other
I think it's
issues-
more of a control issue than anything.
And another issue that I want to bring up too is when I say housing spends a lot of money, sometimes is we have residents that when they move out, they break the cabinets, they break doors, they do a lot of damage to the apartment.
Again,
and then
I've known because I've lived in the Valley my whole life, right? I lived there, then I lived in North Street, now I live in Hooper Street. Jerry, I swear to God, I saw you, bro. And I can't believe that we're done already. This whole hour is gone. Oh, my goodness. All right. Yeah, we'll get to these questions. So
what I'm trying to say is damage to the apartment, like broken cabinets.
but that happens over time.
like
It's not
that,
like
right.
people have a going away party and just break everything.
Right.
There are some people who are
Right.
crazy and do things like that. Don't get me
True.
wrong.
I've seen them.
Every now and then you have
Yeah.
some people who got, but for the most part, that's something that's been done over time. And
Right.
housing is well aware of those issues and they're documented because they do the yearly inspections and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
I think it's a convenient excuse.
Mm.
And then not even from you, because I've heard this from housing
Right.
as well. And I think it's more of like an easy way out. You less that you have to deal with, you know? And when people are paying rent, it's not like they're getting the paint from you. It's not like they're getting anything from you.
Well, as far as I know, with housing, if I want to repaint my house, I can go through them and they'll provide the paint and the paintbrushes.
But only white.
Only white.
Yes.
Yes, that's the rule.
Which I think is dope. I mean, at least they provide the
what?
white paint.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be
mean,
mad.
If
But
if I can paint a different color, I would.
so let me ask you this. My mom was evicted from housing. And the reason why she was evicted is because she put contact paper on her walls after she was told not to. And, well, she was told, or she was well aware that she wasn't supposed to make any alterations to the surfaces. And for me, it's easy. Just, I'll leave the walls white and whatever. It's not a big deal to me. But for some people, they don't want to look at white walls. They don't want to feel like they're institutionalized. They don't want to feel like they're in a prison. You know what I'm saying? They might want nice green marble, which is what she had, contact paper on the walls. So you know what contact paper is, right?
Yeah, that's
You could peel it off and it doesn't damage the paint at all.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, part of the housing agreement for her to not end up ultimately being evicted was she had to remove the contact paper, and there was no damage whatsoever.
To the wall.
And when we moved, there was no anything because we had to go to we were downsizing.
Right.
So when we moved to a different apartment, there was no like, oh, you messed up this, that, and the third, and now you got to pay that too, because it was never a thing. And it never even should have been a thing.
Right.
You know, especially for someone who has mental disability. If that made her feel more comfortable in her home, why not accommodate her with that?
That's what I was going to say. I think
Like a reasonable accommodation.
one of my role as commissioner is to accommodate residents, make them safe at their home. I've known cases where, people do paint light colors now, you know, and then they can repaint when they leave, but not like the whole house purple. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I hear you. I don't necessarily agree.
Because I do agree that, we need bright colors in our lives.
Well, and not even about bright colors. People need to be able to express themselves and live how they feel most comfortably.
Right. But again, we go
and
back
that makes
to
you
rules.
respect.
Right.
I understand rules, but it also, when you have that some sense of ownership or where you're able to
Like,
express
this is
yourself
my
and live
space, this is
comfortably,
mine.
you're
I get it.
gonna respect it even more.
Yeah.
You're gonna have an ownership over it. You're not gonna let nobody mess with your stuff. But when you feel like it's not yours, you tend to not care.
Right.
You know what I mean?
True.
So that's all I'm coming from. Now, I just want to get to these last questions because we have to go like, what was it, 2 minutes ago now? But you know how we do. We're a little late, but that's okay. You agreed to stay just a couple more minutes later. And also, we're going to have you back because I'm feeling, I love the vibes. Me and you guys got a great rapport going on. So maybe I can come down to your office next time.
Whatever
show
you
me
want.
around. All right. That's dope. I'm happy to hear that. So this is actually my mom asking this question.
Okay.
This is going to be the hard one. Actually, it's way less hard than I thought it was going to be. I don't know what she's doing over there. She must not feel like fighting tonight. That's so nice. Thank you. I
hi
love
to
her.
your mom.
Yeah, she's watching. She could see you. So.
Hi, how are you?
And actually, Jose had some very nice things to say about you. So I would love to see you guys have a nice conversation
Yes,
moving down the
definitely.
road of how we can work together to improve things. Because, if there's one person who is why I got in this position and why I advocate for the community, it's because she advocated for residents my entire life.
I remember your mom. I remember the work she did. She's a very strong, powerful woman. Very strong
Outspoken.
advocate, a Latina.
Yeah.
After all, because let me tell you, I know
Yeah.
your mom.
She got that spitfire personality.
She speaks her mind, and that's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
It
Not
is a
everyone
great
can
thing.
handle it. But
Exact-
that's why
that's
they
my
put
point.
wonderful people like us
That's
in
my
her life
point.
to be
So
able to
people
handle
can
it. Right?
truth.
Yeah. And then I tell her all this because she gets mad at me sometimes. She thinks I'm too nice, which I think part of that is just the trauma of seeing how she was treated
She was
from being too outspoken, where I try to translate for her in a nicer way that people don't get so offended and scared away but they can still understand and relate. You know what I'm saying?
She just speaks truth to power.
Yeah.
That's it.
But she gets shit done.
Hey,
she gets it done. So this is her question. Where are the W.H. dump trucks? Why is it contracted out?
The dump trucks.
Do you remember
we have the big, like the dumpsters.
The Worcester Housing Authority dumpster trucks.
Right, we have the big dumpsters, but now we recently changed vendors.
Why? Because Worcester Housing Authority used to have their own, right? That's what she's saying.
I believe they still do. But they have a contract with a truck that comes in and now that, picks up the trash and stuff like that.
Okay. So
as far as I know, we have a contract.
And on that same note, Jerry, you can vouch for this. Every time we pull into my parking lot, is that dumpster not always overflowing, not just with trash, but whole apartments full of furnitures?
Okay.
And so
that's an issue then.
It's a huge issue because
it
makes us feel like we're not worth a clean environment.
Before I leave here, I can say to you that if you give me info, I can relate back.
Right.
And, I can work with you. And
because it's
all about communication.
I'll tell you what, it's mighty convenient when Alex comes with HUD. It's a beautiful yard we got.
I get it.
We get new flowers, no trash in the dumpster. It's great.
I get it.
Yeah.
But one thing I can say.
But that's not everyday life.
Right. In his defense is when he took over, he's trying very, very hard. And I'm not one to, give you a pass.
Right.
If you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. If I don't like it, I'm going to tell you I don't like it. Okay. If I see that it's not convenient for the resident, because housing is for the resident.
Right.
It's not, you know what I mean? So how I take it is I'm also a resident. So if you're not happy, I'm not happy.
Right. Because we're brothers in life.
Right. And I come from the same place.
That's right.
So my seat at the table is to make it better for the residents.
Right.
Period.
I like that. Mic drop. All right. Before we end, I just have, believe these are more comments than questions. So I'm just going to read them how they're written, and then we'll take it from there. Yeah. So Stephen Romero, shout out to my man, a 508 love story. Every time you comment and stuff, I'm never wearing your stuff, but I want you to go check out a 508 love story on Facebook and Instagram and see all the amazing designs that this young person, a Latino in the community of Worcester, not only designs, but I don't know what they call it, sews, crafts, whatever.
Right.
And they're such great quality. One of the shirts, I'm going to have to get it for you. Steven, we got to get my man one of the shirts. It has all the hoods from Worcester. So it got Plumley, the Valley, Lakeside, Washington Heights. Yeah, all, like famous buildings. Not famous. They're famous to me, but they're not really famous. But, all the hoods in Worcester. It's really dope. I'm going to get you one.
Nice.
I'd love to see you rock that.
Okay, I'll rock it.
With the suit.
I'll rock it next time I come here.
Word. But anyway, so Stephen Romero of a 508 Love Story says, housing is not a permanent solution. What steps, if any... Oh, there is a question here. My bad. I didn't see the question mark, Jerry. That's my fault. What steps, if any, is the W.H.A. taking to educate their renters on home ownership, financial literacy, steps to becoming more independent? What an amazing question.
We have a program. It's called CHAMP. It's called CHAMP program. What it does is it helps you so you can buy your own home.
Okay.
So it's a new program. It's called CHAMP. And then we have another program. It's called the Better Life program. And what it does is it helps you pay rent so you can save money so then you can then own your own home.
Wonderful.
So we do have a lot of new programs coming out.
Amazing. So we're going to have to talk about more of that on the next show, get more into the programs and how people can take advantage.
That housing is doing, and then I'm involved also personally. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm saving your number. We're going to be friends, I'm telling you.
Most definitely.
And then lastly, Stephen also asks, surveillance of the tenants should be focused on safety and concerns as well. How has having surveillance on property helped in terms of safety of the residents?
Well, one thing I can say about the cameras and the safety is the cameras are running 24/7. We upgraded the cameras. So they monitor the hallway, the elevators, the parking lots, They put more lighting out there. So, we have also the foot patrols that are the cops that are, they do the walkthrough. We also have, there's a lot of new things that housing is doing for the safety of the residents. And I see that myself because I see, when they come through, when they come in the building, they walk the hallways, they walk the parking lot. You know what I mean? So
I will say I do not feel any sense of danger. I feel absolutely safe where I live. That much I could say.
Right.
Honestly, the only thing that I am concerned about is, and this is no control of the Worcester Housing Authority, but I wish people would stop treating our parking lot like it's a drag racing strip. Because one of those kids are going to get hurt.
Listen, I live at Murray Ave, and it's Murray, Wellington, and then you got Main Street. And the cars go through there boom.
And it doesn't matter.
We even put
sometimes
lights.
it's a pizza guy, sometimes it's a regular guy. It doesn't matter. People love speeding in there.
Right, and I work with Sarai Rivera.
Yeah.
She's the council for District 4. And we got the light, like the stop lights
Yeah.
and the speed bumps and stuff like that.
It doesn't
That's
matter.
something we could advocate, but they still go through.
I think we should definitely consider speed bumps in all parking lots.
Right,
And
especially when you have
not
elderly-
because listen,
right.
I hate speed bumps. I love to go fast. I do, but I love kids more.
Right,
and I'm so
exactly.
afraid one of them little babies are gonna dart out behind a car and
right,
that's it.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'd rather be going slow and be inconvenienced that I'm going slow than to be inconvenienced because I killed somebody.
Right. I believe the last thing I will say is, if we all work together collectively, if we come together and make one voice, we can make a lot happen. We can make a lot of changes, but we all have to be in the same page. We can't fight one another. We have to come together and work together. Because if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it for us.
Word.
We have to do it ourselves. We have to work and help each other.
I agree.
So
100%. And in the famous words of Mari Gonzalez, El Buen Samaritano,
ya
together
tú
we can do
sabes.
more.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
So, I guess, listen, that's a perfect way to end the show for today.
Thank you for
Jose,
inviting me.
thank you for coming, and I look forward to many more
Anytime.
visits. We
Right.
might have to make a regular series out of this.
Any answers that I can give you, I can provide. I'm very happy to give you the answers.
And,
if I
and
have.
why not think of a way? You have this platform now, not only to be an advocate to the housing authority, but also be able to be that conduit from the housing authority to the residents to
Right.
maybe translate in more
And
easier terms to understand what to expect.
Right.
What things are coming down the road.
Right.
What changes we
New
could look
projects.
exciting to do. You like my English there? What programs we can take advantage of things like
Right,
that. So
right.
maybe me and you could team up and do something like that.
Because most definitely housing is